Zadran has not won the World Cup. Zadran is the World Cup.
South Africa's anti-choke never really got a chance to take off as Sri Lanka took the game by the scruff of the neck, and I don't know, they did something to it, let's be honest. The game went so bad for Sri Lanka at one stage the big three were trying to legislate against them. They thought they were Scotland. It seemed like Sri Lanka were trying to say to Mahela and Kumar, please, don't go, don't ever leave us. This is what our future will be like. Andy, did you think Sri Lanka could possibly be this bad?
No, Jared, but if I'd thought about it more carefully, yes. We know the Sri Lankan selectors like to pull out their jauntiest moves for big World Cup matches, as the 2011 final could strongly testify, and breaking up the Tirimane-Dilshan opening partnership that had been firing so well did suggest they were scared of the South African bowlers and wanted to bolster the middle order, as a result of which the South African bowlers exposed the middle order, so it did rather backfire. But for both Mahela and Angelo Matthews to play such horrible shots at crucial times, well, you can't really legislate for that. It's like both Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton forgetting to bring their guitars to practice for your new band. So South Africa are quite good as well. That may well have been a factor in that game. We cannot rule that out.
Can you say bye?
Hi.
Bye, Sri Lanka? Did you think Sri Lanka could be that bad?
No.
So, Doc, you correctly predicted all 4 quarterfinalists. Well done.
Yes, I certainly did.
Like pretty much everyone else in the world.
Well, I predicted them really well.
I'm going for South Africa in this one. Better bowling. I'm going for India. 6 batsmen who can play a match-winning innings. That helps.
Well, I'm going for Australia to win by 6 wickets with 14, maybe 14.1 overs left. But only after a bit of a fright. That Wahab Riaz has got something up his sleeve, I tell you. I can't really see West Indies keeping Martin Guptill quiet, especially not if they drop him off the 3rd or 4th ball of the match. So I go for New Zealand to win by about 144 runs. No, 143.
Yes. So Wahab Riaz made me wish I was alive again.
It made me quite glad I died in 1915.
The Indian batsmen have had the handbrake on throughout the entire tournament. I'm not sure why the bowlers seem to be in nitro. But to be honest, against Bangladesh, they just had to beat a team that played as well as it could for as long as it could before. It felt like the entire universe and the MCG and the ICC and apparently the BCCI fell on their head. But essentially, they're just not that great, Bangladesh. And they tried as hard as they could and they're getting better and there were really good signs. But you know, you can't blame umpiring decisions when you lose by that much. You can't blame, a global cricket conspiracy when, let's be honest, global cricket has run so bad they can't even get their conspiracies right. Maybe it's the universe holding you back. What do you think, Andy?
Well, I just don't think you should name your daughter after David Boone. It's too big a burden to catch. Jared, no, I don't think the entire universe is conspiring against Bangladesh. In fact, I've just had it confirmed. There is a small village in the Amazonian rainforest called Pautitik Hakar, which has done absolutely nothing adverse towards Bangladeshi cricket. So, no, you conspiracy theorists, rest easy. It's not the entire universe. That said, I don't think Bangladesh would have won, even if Raina had been given LBW, even if Rohit Sharma hadn't been wearing his trousers trendily low like the wannabe hip-hop legend that he is, so his waist was just above his knees, even if it could be proved that a single molecule of Shikhar Dhawan's boot touched an atom on the boundary rope. I'm still not sure Bangladesh would have won. I think it's a bit of a red herring. We should focus instead on how much better they've been than they were 4 years ago when they were intermittently awful, not intermittently against England, but awful against West Indies and South Africa in particular. It's been a massive step forward. We have to ask, what can they do and the rest of the cricketing world do to ensure that improvement continues? One thing they might consider is allowing Bangladesh to play some matches in England, Australia, South Africa or New Zealand more than once, or India more than once every 300-400 years. That might be a good start. They've been a pleasure to watch for most of this tournament, even if they couldn't actually quite beat any of the major ODI nations, and I mean every single word of that. Every word.
Shane Watson decided to get Australia through to the semi-final by essentially turning his back on one of the most brutal ODI spells that's been bowled in Australia for a very long time, and oddly it worked. Pakistan, trying to work out Australia's form through Pakistan's form is trying to solve a crossword with Sudoku answers. I have no idea what was going on with Pakistan for most of this tournament, and I think it would make a very good teleplay, TV of the week type deal. Andy, would you say that the biggest weakness that Pakistan had at the end of the day was Mohammad Irfan's groin?
Well, it's got to end sometime, hasn't it? Can't go on forever. Well, a guy I know at the ICC says it'll all be over by Christmas. Jared, yes, the Big Mo's wonky pelvis, cracking band, by the way, easily my favourite bluegrass, punk, acid, baroque, fusion octet, currently on the circuit. Undoubtedly a massive factor in these quarter-finals when Wahab Riaz was bowling like a one-man Vesuvius in Adelaide. It was crying out for a 7-foot, 12-inch megalo left armour to come pounding in at 90 miles an hour from the other end to keep the pressure up, but they couldn't do that, and they let Australia off the hook. But, Jared, as the old saying goes, you can't crack a coconut if you're a dead anchovy, and you cannot win a Cricket World Cup if you have a massively understrength batting lineup. I think that was probably even more important than the wonky groin.
So, semi-final time. New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, India. Not only has your country let itself down, Doc, but your entire hemisphere has taken an absolute pasting. 3-1.
Well, we've got to let you have something. After all, we have Shakespeare, Beethoven and Michelangelo. You have Danny Morrison's commentary, Skippy the Kangaroo and Vegemite. I'd say that's 3-0.
2-1. Love that Vegemite. Anyway, New Zealand and South Africa, that's going to be the first-time finalist in a World Cup since Sri Lanka first finalised their place in their first final in 1996.
Well, I'm going for South Africa. Here's something for you, Frederick. Martin Guptill might have batted well the other day. Only averages 11 against South Africa.
So what? He's never played them 4 days after pummelling 237 not out in a World Cup quarter-final before. It's not relevant.
Well, it's going to be tougher for New Zealand. South Africa have something West Indies don't have.
What? Decent cricketers?
I was going to say biltong in the dressing room. I think that's highly influential, but we can run with your version.
So, Australia, India. Well, I know India have been good, and Rohit Sharma could time a fossil back to life, but those Australian batsmen know what to do with those Indian bowlers, and that is smash them all over the park.
I'm telling you, Frederick, they're not the same bowlers. Neil Armstrong might have conquered the moon once, but the closest he ever got to it after that was a cheap flight to Mexico for a tequila festival. So, I'm going with India. Please, India, save our cricketing hemisphere.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Oi.
New Zealand is so good at home at the moment. They're as good as other teams used to be when they played New Zealand back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, that sort of thing. That's how good New Zealand is at home at the moment. Unfortunately, though, the final's not at home, so the only thing that they can really do is potentially swap the final for something else, maybe their next Lord of the Rings type franchise to Melbourne in some sort of deal, because it looks like that's the only thing that could hold them back, is that the ball may not swing when they get to Australia. The West Indies, on the other hand, the West Indies, I don't really know what to say. And is it possible that Marlon Samuels will ever make 200 again, like he did by dropping Martin Guptill?
Good question, Jared. Marlon Samuels may well be struggling to sleep after dropping Martin Guptill 233 runs and 160 balls before the New Zealander was finally dismissed by the fact that 50 overs had been bowled. Super piece of cricket from the maths there. Struggling to sleep, of course, is not something that Marlon and the rest of the West Indies team seem to have a problem with early on in that game. It was probably the doziest start to a major cricket match since the Narcoleptics 11 took on the Hypersomniacs Cricket Club in the Vancouver Slumberdome in the short-lived North American Sleeping Disorders League, back, of course, in 1856. But in answer to your question, will Marlon Samuels ever score 200 with a bat? He's already done it. 260 off 455 balls, in fact, in a test against Bangladesh back in 2012. So if anything, he's 27 runs and 295 balls in credit. Is that how it works? But at least they gave it a go, the West Indies, chasing 390 plus. And as the old saying goes, the West Indies are never more dangerous than when they're down. Well, that's not the... No, the old saying is the West Indies are never more dangerous than when it's 30 years ago. Back to you in Vegas, Jared. the North Island of New Zealand, as I discovered on a train journey through this beautiful countryside. Even this sparsely populated, inanimate landmass seemed to want to have its say on England's World Cup. They've reached the end of the line and pretty much hit the buffers. The rest of the cricketing world is passing them by, and English cricket has come to a grinding halt. Something has gone very wrong. See, on reflection, maybe the writing was already on the wall. Many said they would fall down very badly, because there were questions over how England were playing their cricket. They didn't really seem to have enough power, and they were well down on pace, as we've heard. Yes, still, water load of rubbish. Were the senior players coasting? Of course, they would have no truck with that. But still, there was no one England could bank on, and as the other teams move on, England find themselves worryingly isolated. They've been overtaken. Completely overtaken. Their methods look outdated, and they're playing the wrong brand of cricket. It simply has to stop. Whatever current complaints or future beefs you may have, there is no point running away from things. It's now time to look ahead. England need to get back on track if they're going to turn the corner, because now we're heading down the wrong path, on the road to nowhere. It's time to take drastic action. Some feel the horse has already bolted, but we need to change, and do so without delay. For a start, England need to shed their inhibitions and stop being suspicious of those who want to do things in an unorthodox way. Could this mean a return for Kevin Peterson? Maybe there's been too much water under the bridge. The current players might feel that they need some tender loving care, others would say that's out of order, and the media will pile on the pressure. I don't want to sound alarmist, but the selectors are going to have to make some very orchard decisions. England will have to build up from scratch again to find the light at the end of the tunnel. So there may be a long and lonely road ahead. A very long and very lonely road. Yeah, I mean, really, really long and quite incredibly lonely. There's a long way to go. I mean, it's a long and lonely road, no doubt.
What a dreamboat.